So the next important title that we are going to study is the scope of environmental economics. So what is the scope of the entire subjects? The entire subject can be divided into, scope can be divided into three titles, whether environmental economics is a science or art, the field of environmental economics, and the limits of environmental economics. So first, whether the environmental economics is a science or an art. We know what is a science and what is an art. So just we need to analyze if environmental economics is a science or a art. So first of all, we try to distinguish between descriptive and positive aspects of environmental economics. So descriptive environmental economics studies economic activities of mankind without reference to their ethical significance. So descriptive one doesn't look into ethics, whereas the objective of a positive science is a study as they are. The objective of a positive science studies what it actually is or as they are, like the physics or chemistry. They do not suggest how things work, but study things as they actually work or behave. So in this sense, environmental economics studies the impact of programs on environmental. So it studies as a positive or as a positive science. Second, prescriptive normative perspectives of economics. Now what is a prescriptive? Prescriptive or normative ethics deals with things as they ought to be. Ethics is a normative science, that means how it should be. That is what prescriptive or normative ethics tells us. It tells us how we should behave. It has no objection to discuss the moral rightness or wrongness of things. So normative environmental economics suggests us what type of economic programs government has to take up. What is the norm? What is the ideal thing? So that is about the two questions, descriptive or positive aspect and also the prescriptive or normative aspect. So the next title which we have to understand is the field of environmental economics. So in total we have around 8 fields that we have to cover, which all areas environmental economics covers. First is balancing environmental and economic development. So striking a balance between economic development with environment is a Herculean task, because economic development and environment balance don't go together. They are opposite to each other. So environmental economics tries to strike a balance between both of them. Second, pollution control and environment. Economic development process is a root cause of environment. Economic development is one thing that causes environmental pollution, now which has a serious impact on the environment. So our planet Earth differs from other planets in having an environment. So because of economic development, actually lots of pollution is happening. So environmental economics actually takes care of this thing to see to it that the pollution is controlled. Second, preservation of natural resources. Natural resources refers to the untamed natural essence of the environment. They contain significant amount of materials as well as aesthetic value. So because of this, in the name of development, many times the natural resource is also wasted. So environmental economics actually has a very important role in maintaining a balance in preservation of natural resources. Next is alternative approach to environmental economics. So environmental economics was once distinct from resource economics, but is now hard to distinguish as a separate field, as the two became associated with sustainability and more radical green economics. Economics split off to work to an alternative political economy. Environmental economics was a major influence for the theories of natural capitalism and environmental finance, which could be said to be two sub-branches of environmental economics concerned with resource conservation in production and the value. So resource conservation and also value, both are held together, both are analyzed together in environmental economics. Fifth perspective is market failure. Central to environmental economics is the concept of market failure. Market failure means the markets fail to allocate resources effectively. Which resource should go to which field? That if it goes correctly in the market is good and right. If it doesn't go correctly, if the resources are distributed in a wrong way, then the market fails. So environmental economics plays a very important role in seeing to it that the market doesn't fail. Externality. The basic idea is that an externality exists when a person makes a choice that affects other people that are not accounted for the marketplace. For example, a firm emitting pollution will typically not take into account the cost that its pollution imposes on others. So, externality involves all the external things. As a result, pollution in excess of the socially efficient level may occur. Seventh is the common property and non-exclusion. The challenge is related with common property because environment is not one person's private property. It's about the common property. So, if in the name of economic development, if the common property is hampered, so then that is an issue, and as a result of which environmental economics takes that also into consideration. Public goods and non-rivalry. Public goods are another type of market field in which the market price does not capture the social benefit of its provision. The social benefits have also to be taken care of when we are analyzing with this thing. A country's incentive to invest in carbon abatement, all these are examples. So, public good and non-rivalry in environmental goods has to be taken into consideration. But still, problems rise out of development because of this market goods and rivalry. Many times applications provided by the subject to correct externalities are discussed below. What are the applications? Environmental regulations. Here the economic impact has to be estimated by the regulator. A regulator is kept using which the environmental impact is estimated. Second is quotas on pollution. Often it is advocated pollution reduction should be achieved by way of traceable emission permits, which if freely traded may ensure that reductions in pollution are achieved at least cost. So, quotas, like if the pollution goes above a level of this thing, then it's questioned. Quotas on pollution. Taxes and tariffs on pollution. So, if pollution is happening because of a company or economic development, then tariffs or taxes are put on them for polluting the environment. So, this is also called as a green tax shift. Incentive. Better defined property rights. The Coase theorem states that assigning property rights will lead to an optimum solution regardless of who receives them if transaction costs are trivial and the number of parties negotiating is limited. For example, if people living near a factory had a right to clean air and water, or the factory had the right to pollute, then either the factory could pay those affected by pollution or the people could pay the factory not to pollute. So, either way it should happen, or citizens could take action themselves as they would if other property rights were violated. So, who will pay whom? That is the question, and that has to be taken care of. Next thing, limits of environmental economics. The third thing which under the scope we have the limits. So, environmental growth and environment have negative relationship. They go hand in hand. Therefore, environmental economic growth must be regulated so as to achieve a good quality of environment. There is no use of higher rate of economic growth if the people is suffering from poor environmental standards. No, what is the use of money if the environment is polluted and we all are suffering because of that? So, there is no use of that. So, environmental economics has thus a varied scope on theoretical and applied side. It has a varied scope both theoretically and also on the application side. The scope is big, that is what we have to understand. Next is the importance of environmental economics. What are the importance of environmental economics? First of all, usefulness for policy makers. Now, those who are making policy, the governmental policies are being made. So, those who are making policy, environmental economics plays a very important role because these subjects tell the policy makers like this is good for the environment and this has a negative impact on the environment. Using them, the macroeconomic policies or the macroeconomic policies can be made, economic analysis can be done. It is an intellectual discipline. The study of environmental economics is having theoretical and practical importance. It trains citizens mainly about economic problems and provides guidance for rational behavior. So, in that way also it is an intellectual discipline. Efficient utilization of resources. Because of environmental economics, it helps us to use the resources that is very scarce efficiently. Only resources can go to those field or those work which is very much required. Efficiently the resources can be controlled. Balancing environment and economic development, and environmental economics plays a very important role in balancing. Are we completely for environment or we are going only for economic development? So there should be a middle way. So environmental economics plays a very important role in analyzing the middle way. So this pollution control, environmental economics gives us a rate of that. This is the pollution rate that is happening, or the environmental degradation that is happening because of economic development, as a result of which we can control the pollution. Next is preservation of resources. As we told up, it can help us to preserve the resources to achieve sustainable development. Sustainable development means development even useful for the future generation, not only the present development, but also for the future generation it can be useful. So that development can be achieved because of environmental economics. It teaches the facts of economic life. The study of environmental economics deals with matters of everyday importance like sustainable development, resource management, pollution control, waste management, etc. can be solved by using this thing, environmental economics. Knowledge of the working of the ecosystem. So we will be able to know how the ecosystem is working by the use of environmental economics. Useful for underdeveloped countries, because pollution is very large in underdeveloped countries because the technology is not that good, so a lot of pollution will be emitted. On the other hand, there will be pressure for economic development at the cost of environment. So this environmental economics would play a very important role in underdeveloped countries. So that is what we studied in the importance of environmental economics. So this much points are therefore 6 and 9. Just you need to understand the titles and you can explain it in your own words. Now, what is the relationship between environment and economic development? It's called an important question. Economics is study of resource utilization aiming at maximizing utility and human satisfaction. Economics is that. Development depends mainly on availability of a resource and its proper utilization. Now, how can there be a influence or a relationship between this thing? The environment is the sum of all external conditions and influences affecting the life and development of organism. Environment as a concept is very broad. So, what is environment actually? It comprises of abiotic and biotic components. So, what is abiotic and biotic? So, abiotic means which does not have life. Bio means life. Biology is life. So, all the natural components which does not have life is abiotic, and the river, mountains, soil, all are abiotic components. Biotic components are of course the living things. Living means animals, germs, birds, reptiles, fishes, all the living things or living organisms of the earth are this thing, what biotic components. The environment is divided into 4 segments which we study in the basic geography classes in the childhood: lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere and biosphere. So, I hope you know the 4 divisions. Lithosphere is the earth, hydrosphere is the water, atmosphere is the life blanket of earth, biosphere is a region which includes lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere together is called as biosphere. Okay. So, now what is ecology? What is the meaning of the word ecology? Ecology comes from the word oikos, which means eco, which means oikos means household. The study of household is actually ecology, household of a man. The living house of a man is the ecology. It is made up of 4 elements. First of all, in this household we have non-living or inorganic matter like the earth, the sun, the carbon dioxide, the green plants, etc. Second, the producer organisms. The green plants, trees, shrubs are producers. Consumer organisms like animals and man, which don't produce anything, only consumes. Fourth, the decomposer organism, the algae, bacteria, etc. An ecosystem is governed by distinct laws of growth and decay. So, that is about the ecology. In a more appropriate sense, there is a conflict between economy and ecology. There is always a conflict between these two because economic development always happens at the cost of the ecology or ecological destructions, as a result of which there is always a conflict between these two. The human race is faced with the problems of providing pollution because population. We have to feed the population, or the needs of the population have to be fulfilled. So always human race have faced this problem of providing for the population. For these cities and towns have grown, which require the clearing of forest areas for building residential and industrial complexes. So all those issues have happened, as a result of which the economy, for the growth of economy, the ecology has been disturbed, as a result of which there has been a conflict between these two factors, ecology and the economy. Now, what is economic development? Is much to do with human endowments, social attitudes. Economic development, as we know, it's about the development of the entire economy. UN experts develop this as development concerns not only man's material needs but also the improvement of the social conditions of his life. Development is therefore not only economic growth but growth plus change, social, cultural, institutional as well as economic. So that is actually economic development. In recent years, the importance of preserving healthy and virile environment is greatly emphasized. Earlier, the focus was only on the economic aspect, but nowadays a focus is also given on the overall or a holistic development of humanity. So in this context, it's better we have a glance about the positive and negative aspects of environment and economic development. The role of environment in economic development. So environment plays a very important role in the process of economic development. So what are the roles? First of all, for economic production, consumption, exchange are made possible. So these three words are the key words in economics: production, consumption and exchange. Now this is possible only because there is an environment. If there is no environment, there is no raw materials, so there will be no production. If there is no environment, there cannot be any consumption if there is no one to consume. So production, consumption and exchange is happening because of environment. So we have the transformation curve, which is this relationship between economic development and the environment may be understood by a falling curve called as the transformation curve. So this curve is an open curve which can be understood easily. If any doubt is there regarding this curve, we can understand this when we come to our normal classes. Second, environment provides natural resources. So natural resource or land is one of the important factors that is capable of influencing economic development. In economics, land refers to all free gifts of nature such as soil and its fertility, water, mineral. So all these things are under environment. So environment gives the natural resources for production. So that is a natural factor, because without environment there is no raw materials or natural resources available for production. It provides energy. Now for economic development, energy is also a must. Environment is the one that is giving energy in the form of solar or through cow dung, or the other energies are provided from the environment. Environment is the basis for mineral resources. Again, all the minerals, mines, etc., the raw materials comes from the environment. Environment promotes agricultural development. So that is also an important factor in economic development, agricultural development. For that actually, the environment plays a very vital role. It promotes industrial development also. Now, environment supplies land, raw materials, minerals, energy and other important things for industrial sector. So for that also environment is very much required. So without that, you can never have an economic development. Environment is a base for marine resources, water resources, all we get because of the environment. Environment is an important source of tourism. We know the ecotourism spots like Goa is an important place of tourism, or Tekadi, Munnar, or our tourism centers, because of which economic development happens. We get revenue because of the environment, beautiful environment. We can even make revenue. Now, negative impacts of economic development on environment. What are what we saw, the 8 points were the importance of positive impact of environment on economic development. Now, what is the negative impacts of economic development on environment? First of all, development causes environmental pollutions. Because of development, there are lots of environmental pollution happening. Industrialization, urbanization leads to air pollution. Lots of air pollution because of vehicles and the other factories it's happening. Development process may lead to natural disaster. When development is happening, we are cutting the trees, as a result of which soil erosion happens, floods happen, natural calamities happen. tsunamis happen. All these natural calamities are happening only because of the developmental process. Development leads to health hazards because of the air pollution, etc. We get cancers, bronchitis, and other such kind of diseases. Neurological and our pulmonary diseases all are caused because of the environmental pollutions. Modernization of agriculture causes pollution. Now, in agriculture, we use postmodern technologies of this seeds or pesticides, fungicides, or manure. All these things actually degrading the soil because it's not natural. It's degrading the soil and making the soil harmful, not good for this thing, agriculture. It's being converted. Disposal of industrial waste leads to problem. Industry has lots of waste. Now, where to put it away? Wherever, if you put it in water, water becomes polluted. If you put it in land, land becomes polluted. If you burn it off, the air becomes polluted. So there's big issue about the industrial waste. Where to throw the industrial waste? Seventh is industrialization causes acid falls because of all the pollutants that are being raised to the environment. It remains in the environment in this gaseous form. When rains come, it mixes up with the water and comes down as acids. Because it mixes up with H2O and comes down as acids. Even in wind, in this cold areas where there are snows, snowfalls, etc. A thing called as smog is formed. Smoke and fog come together and smog is formed, which is very dangerous and harmful. Now, economic impacts on air pollution. The effects of air pollution, human health and environment have economic impacts because money is wasted for all these things. It has economic impact. The greenhouse effect, because the greenhouse effect is about the global warming. Because of the heat, the temperature is increasing. The ozone layer is depleting. It's being broken. Now, good that because of corona, the industries and factories are shut down. At least the ozone layer is re-establishing or rehabilitation is happening of the ozone layer. So that is a very good positive point of corona that has happened. So the greenhouse effect is temperature rise and also the depletion of the ozone layer. Again, the 10th point is ozone depletion. 11th is nuclear plants leads to pollution. To overcome the problem of energy crisis, man invented nuclear power, which is again leading to pollution. Sustainable development is a matter of concern. Whether we can keep this development for the next future generation? No. If we are going only focusing on development, economic development, the development will happen only for this generation. That also is a matter of concern. But it will never happen or go on to the next generation because next generation will be impaired of a good environment to live on. So that is what sustainable development. So next important title that we go and deal with is called as meaning of sustainable development. Now, what do you mean by sustainable development? Now, this word is very much important. Sustainable development means keeping the concept of sustainable development is of recent origin. The term sustainable development was first coined by World Conservation Strategy presented by National Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources in 1980. Sustainable development is a pattern of resource use that aims to meet human needs while preserving the environment so that these needs can be met not only in the present but in the indefinite future. The needs can be fulfilled not only in the present but also in the future. That is the key word. Preserving the environment so that these needs can be met not only in the present but also in the future. So that is this thing, sustainable development. Meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. It means we are keeping the environment safe for the future generation also. That is sustainable development. So the theme is being established and explained in the coming stanza. Sustainable development is a term commonly defined as economic and social development that meets the needs of the current generation without undermining the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So both is present and the future development is taken care of. The rest thing is the explanation of sustainable development, which can be understood by reading through it. The most broadly accepted criteria for corporate sustainable constitutes a firm's efficient use of natural capital. How do we use a natural capital? Or okay, fine. The sustainable development debate is based on assumptions that society needs to manage three types of capital. economic, social and natural capital. Now how we are able to manage this capital, based on that our sustainable development will depend, whether we can have development sustainability. That will be dependent on that. Natural capital, the social capital and the economical capital. Areas of sustainable development. First of all, now in which all area we require sustainable development from the environment. First of all, depletion of biodiversity. Lots of species, varieties of species are being depleted or destroyed because of the environmental pollutions. Pollutions in the name of development, it's been depleted. So we have to preserve this biodiversity. So for that, in that area sustainable development is required, first of all. Second, population growth. Rapid growth population is great concern, because there is a limitation for the growth of natural resources. Natural resources can't grow on big, because earth is limited, cannot grow. So population needs to be controlled. Deteriorating land quality. The use of fertilizers and include this thing, crop rotation and other mixed problems have lost fertility. So that if the fertility is lost, the soil cannot be used in the future generation. So that is also an important place where they have to look for sustainable development. Now the broad objectives of sustainable development, first of all, to provide for the legitimate needs of all people of the present generation and to bring them to a reasonable standard of life. You have to fulfill the needs of the present generation and also lead them to a good standard of living. Second, to manage economic development in such a way so as to enhance and widen our resource base, so that the ability of a future generation, which is likely to be more numerous than we are, to meet their own needs is not compromised. So the future generation will also be larger, because the population is going to increase. And it's larger, their own needs are not compromised. We have to keep the environment safe for the future generation also. Striking balance between environment and economics of development. So we have to strike a balance between these two. To protect and preserve the environmental quality for the present. The environment's quality has to be maintained. Not only the environment, soil. For example, soil. We need not only maintain the soil, but also the quality of the soil have to be maintained. Regulating population growth in order to maintain balance between population and food supply. Next is controlling all sorts of pollution by adopting environment-friendly technology. So all these objectives have to be studied. Sustainable development is an important question that generally happens in the exams. Now, next point is about the importance of sustainable development.